This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome everybody to part 5 of the Atletico defense tactics. So we're now going to go over this scenario here, which should be familiar to everybody who's watched all the previous videos. We're trying to prevent the ball into the middle, and you'll see the compact midfield, where they're compact horizontally, meaning across the pitch. They also are very close to the front line. There's not a big gap there. All right, and you can see the little, as we refer to it, the little seesaw. So you have Griezmann playing what we call a functional 9, stepping up. You have their functional 10 dropping in, able to control their 6. And then you have, you can see that because their 8 is back so far and hasn't dropped in, you can see that they can just hold back. The 8 is controlled. If that ball is attempted to go through, what we call the functional 8 here can intercept it. We don't have to worry about in here. Why? Why are we less concerned about in here anyway? There's no way. Like the 10, what would they have to do to get the ball to the 10 here? That would be a miracle, right? So by setting up like this and being compact, they can't even get the ball to the 10. Okay. All right. So we already went over that, so I'm going to skip that because this is pretty much what they're showing you is that there's a price to pay for this. The price to pay is there's the space, right? The space is where? On the outside, right? So we're now going to go through how to control that space, because we're giving that space up. We're going to control the middle. What we have to get better at is our defensive tactics are designed to keep the ball out of the middle. We've still been laying the ball in the middle. That's a problem, right? So we have to get better at it, at running our tactical system. And now we're going to learn how to control the outside, which we've done at practice already. You're going to notice some of this stuff is things we already worked on. So it's going to be very familiar to the players who go to practice. Okay, so this is like a philosophical thing. These are all the passes that we give up, right? Because we're so compact in the middle, right? The passes we give up are, they're just showing you, back to the keeper. We're giving up the passes to the center backs, right? Back and forth. We're giving up the passes to the outside players on both sides, the fullbacks and the outside mids or wingers, whatever an individual team calls them. Okay, so we're giving all that up. We're eliminating all passes to what's referred to as the crucial central area. And the reason we do that is that's where goals come from. Getting the ball into the middle and then playing a through ball. This is where a lot of goals come from. So we're running a defense that's designed to stop players receiving the ball in the crucial central area and getting turned to play forward. We're giving up the initial pass to the sideline, and then we lay a trap and we press it. That's the basics of our defense. If you had to explain it to a first grader. Any questions on that, or does that make sense, right? It's important to understand what we're trying to do philosophically. We're trying to prevent players, these 4 players, or sometimes it could be 5, from getting turned. Okay, okay. So you can now see that we also give up the pass from the fullback to the outside mid or winger, but we then press him and control him, and then we also double mark him, right? So we've done this at practice. This is pretty clear, right? We work on this in practice, right? The ball goes from the center back, right? We do that drill, and then we press up on him, and we take away the inside pass. We usually have a neutral in here, right? Playing this man. We take away the inside. We allow this. Our fullback steps on him, and then we double mark. We've done this at practice, right? They're showing you now, we've talked about this in practice, how the midfield line is more horizontally or side-to-side compact, and the fullbacks are wider to control the outside mids or wingers, but The reason he can go so wide and give up this channel is if the outside mids are protecting the through ball through the channel. Right, his initial positioning, this 6 initial positioning would be tucked in here. So if the center back was here, they can't get it through. Right, we talk about that. He holds his positioning until the ball is sent out, and then he goes over. You'll see in a second. So this is just, I'm not going to read this, but it's the exact stuff I just said. You can read it later. So here you can see what we talk about. Imagine we're in one of our rondos, right? And we have the 4v4+3 rondo that we do, right? You have the neutral here that plays the center back, right? And then you have the 2 guys on the side on one of the teams, and then the 2 guys inside of that, right? And then you have the same thing on the flip side when we do this. The ball gets played out, we press on him. But notice he holds here to protect against any through ball into this channel. Will be very difficult if he's tucked in. Oops. Okay. So notice he's not right up on him. The outside mid, our outside mid is not right up on this guy because that would leave too big of a channel. Right. You can see the fullback's not as wide as he would be because their outside mid is tucked in a little bit, right? If he was wider, he could take a wider stance because he can give up this channel because our inside midfielder, our central midfielder, and our outside mid are almost inside the penalty area, giving up the outside. We give up the outside. I'm not going to read this. Well, the key point here is the 12-yard distance, which we talk about at practice as well, right? Keep a 12-yard distance between our midfield line and our back line so that we can double mark. So each person's responsible for about 6 yards. And there it is, visual. This should be familiar to people at practice too, right? So there's the 12 yards, and you can see it broken down into 6 and 6. And the key here is he can control, if this is the outside mid. If this ball is sent, he can still get to him during what's called the transmission phase of transmitting the ball. The outside mid can get back and cover him. Right? But if he does make this run, this is him making a run, so he actually wouldn't cover him. He would release him to the fullback. Okay? So we'll see that in a second. There he is right there, the fullback making the run. And you notice that who's controlling him? Their fullback makes the run, so our outside mid releases him. Where here the fullback doesn't make the run, right? Stays high, okay? So our outside mid is responsible for him. Notice that a winger did what? Came into the channel, into the half space, okay? Notice where our outside mid would start, right here, protecting this ball through into the channel, right? It's not until the ball is transmitted, and as this ball is being transmitted, then we come over. And we work on this in practice, so this will all be familiar, but it's good to see it on the tactical pictures as well. But you would hold, we talk about holding when the center back has it, and then as he plays it out, then come out. And the reason you're holding is not to give the outside, not to give their fullback extra time to receive the ball, but it's to prevent a ball into the channel, prevent a ball into the middle. Okay. And then you can see here, this is, if the fullback makes a run, you release him. Okay. And notice we like to keep our fullbacks back, which you noticed the practice this week, we really worked on that. Keeping our fullbacks back. Okay. Not taking the bait and stepping up. Holding. Then when the ball is played, controlling their area. Okay. Okay. So the point they're bringing up here is put yourself in the position of the other team now. If our fullbacks, look at our fullbacks, how wide they are, right? Our midfielders are tucked in, okay? I'm not going to go over this again, but taking away, right, the channel, giving up the pass to the fullback. But look how close our fullback can be aggressive because of the positioning of our outside mids. Our fullbacks can be very aggressive. So it would be wingers don't like not getting the ball, right? The opposing wingers don't like it. So there's talking about what do they want to do. And you guys notice we do this in practice, right? What do you guys do in practice? Because our fullbacks are so aggressive during those drills, during those rondos. What do the wingers end up doing? Someone tell me. What do they do?
They drop.
What?
They drop.
Mm-hmm. They drop because people aren't stupid. Don't never underestimate your opponent. If you do it at practice, you guys recognize it that you're not getting the ball if the fullback's aggressive, this aggressive, right? So you end up dropping. What do you think the other teams are going to do? They're absolutely going to drop. They're going to drop. They refer to it as intelligent positioning. They're going to drop in here because this is where the space is. Okay. So we need an answer for that, and we've actually covered this already in practice, but now we're going to see it in the book. We're actually ahead of ourselves at practice than we are in the textbook here. Okay, so again, this here they're just showing you that since the ball is on this side of the pitch, right? It's on Felipe Luis, the left back side. You see that he's a little wider. You can see this line right here. He's just outside the penalty area, right? Because it's on his side of the pitch, whereas the right back can kink in a little. That's all they're showing you there. Not really a big deal. We're just, depending on which center back has it, we're going to just shift over a little bit, right? Notice they're not showing the 9 and 10, but we know what they would be doing right now, right? The functional 9 would be doing this. The functional 10 would be in here, right? I'm trying not to overcomplicate it, right? Yeah. So if there's a big, long diagonal switch, okay, teams like anybody that played for Danuvia, I think is Luke played for Danuvia. Is he here? Anyone else? You'll hear Brian Coulter always talk about how Westchester, who's the best team in the area right now, and we had to play against them, they do these long diagonal switches. Well, if you're running Atletico correctly, the reason they do that is when they go here, teams tend to all shift over. But if you're running Atletico and you run it strictly, you'll be able to control that because you'll keep your fullback aware of that long diagonal switch. So what Westchester likes to do is shift you over to one side of the field and then leave their winger out here and then do a long ping because they got really, they got a lot of Division I athletes and whatnot playing for them. They can make that long ping across the pitch. So they make you pay for that if you're not watching for it. And then next thing you know, you're down 1-0. So little kid soccer, that doesn't happen. But big boy soccer, you can do that. Okay, so here's the long diagonal ball. We can control that, right? As long as we have our fullback just being aware and being able to be aggressive to take it away, he can step to it and prevent the turn. That's all they're showing you here, right? The fullback controls the long, I'll call it, to the opposing winger, the long diagonal ball to the opposing winger. Does that make sense? Because our fullbacks can be so aggressive. You don't want to come all the way in. You want to be there to control because we're playing guys we're going to be playing players for the EPSL that can make that pass. Okay, so here's an example of what we refer to as the intelligent positioning or just dropping in, right? So here they are dropping in. And who could tell me what's basically going on here? Someone tell me what's happening here in this particular slide, based on what we've done in practice. What do you think is going on here? Someone speak up here. Anybody? Give you a second to look at it.
Are you talking about what are we doing, like as a team?
What are they doing? Anybody recognize what's happening here? Who's controlling the 11? Who's controlling their left mid or their left wing? Anybody?
Our right mid. They're trying to go 2v1 against our right mid, but then he drops.
Thank you. I remember you, Frank from It's Always Sunny. Dead air. All right. So this was a situation where he dropped in, so the fullback would be yelling, to the outside mid to do what? Drop. He's gonna control both of these guys, right? The fullback's gonna wait, and it's good that he does because here goes a nice run by the 10, and 10s have to be mobile, make runs. So the opposing 10 is making that run, and who's here to control that? Our fullback, because he stayed home. Okay, and we just the worst that's going to happen now, their outside mid or winger gets it, our outside mid controls it, and he'll probably just pass the ball back. No worries, right? Okay, and then we just let them pass it. Okay, we're all nice and compact. They can't go anywhere. All right. So, and this slide is just showing you that now their outside mid has it, and here it is. He's controlled the 2v1. Who's he covering in the 2v1? The most forward player, right? He's not, okay? So we've essentially eliminated the fullback. So our fullback, we've eliminated their fullback. Our fullback, who normally would be covering the winger, is basically free to cover the great run that their 10's making, but it's wasted because we've neutralized it, because we didn't take the cheese, right? We didn't our 8 didn't step out here, and then the fullback stepped in, and then what would happen? If our 8 came out, or maybe both guys went at him, and then the ball squeaks through to the 10, we're in trouble, right? Everybody see that? That's why we hold back. Okay? Don't take the cheese. But also don't let the 11 be open. We make our outside mid cover him, and we leave the fullback open. Does that make sense? We leave the least dangerous guy open. Okay? And the fullback stays there to watch out for the run for the 10, which I want our 10s and 9s to make these runs. Okay? Make sense? So here's a zoomed in view of, let's get the players here and who they are. Now you have a fullback with the ball. Okay? He's off the sideline in an inverted fullback position, and he has the ball. And we worked on this at the last practice. Notice with the inverted fullback, you have this nice passing angle here, but it's controlled right now, and here, as opposed to only to the sideline. So this is an inverted fullback position, but they're all controlled because our 11 is taking away the diagonal. Our outside mid, okay, our central midfielders are dropped back. Center back's controlling the 9, and here's our fullback. Because their outside mid is close to him on his side of the 12 yards, he's controlling him. Okay? Makes sense? He hasn't dropped in. We can all guess what's going to happen. If he drops into here, who's going to control him? If the 11 drops into here, who's going to control him? Anybody? There. Where's my A students at?
If the 11 drops into the upper zone, then the midfielder is going to control him, is what you're saying?
Yeah. So you have to communicate that, because if not, and this is very important, if the 11 drops in here, our fullback can follow him, but look at the space he would create, right? If both these players, our fullback and their mid dropped in here, right? We would control their winger, but look at all the space we would create for the 10 to make a run. So that's why when he comes in, we want our fullback to hold to control the run of the 10. But if he drops in here and our fullback holds and our outside mid doesn't cover him, then their 11 is going to receive here completely unmarked. Is that starting to, right? This is all the pieces together here, right? So we have to drop, like you saw on the previous slide, right? Drop to cover it, or else it's going to be a major problem, right? The 11 is going to receive the ball right here. And then he can play a ball into the 10. He can play a ball down here for the 10 to run to. All things bad. So we've worked on this as practice, and you guys are getting good at it. Does that all make sense? Yes? So here is there's, you know, the outside mid is closer to the fullback within the 12 yards. So there it is, right? Pretty clear, right? So our outside mid can control their inverted fullback in this situation. He's not going to come straight on. Notice we still come in a diagonal, even though the full inverted means he's off the sideline. He's inside more. He's in the channel. So notice if our 11 took a straight line on him, right? What pass does that open up? Can you tell me? If our 11 took this approach, our outside mid, what pass does that open up?
To the striker, or to the white, the guy in white behind him.
To their 10, right? So it's why it's very important that he takes that diagonal, takes away the diagonal into the middle, right? This is what that means. Very just a change in your approach to a player can do so much, right? And it goes back to what I always talk about. A bad player covers nobody. He would just be standing here doing nothing, just clueless, right? Probably a bad winger would just be standing here and just go, "Oh, it's not my job." You know, fullback got the ball and ran. I'm Neymar. I don't, you know, I'm the amateur version of Neymar. I don't have to defend, right? A good defender will at least try to defend him, but probably approach him straight on, and then leave the 10 open, and then they still break our line. You tell me what's worse. I don't know. But we talk about a great defender covers more than one person. So this outside mid here is covering the 3, the fullback, and the 10. Agreed? This is what we talk about when we say a bad player covers nobody, a good player covers one guy, and a great defender covers more than one. Okay, that's a perfect example of it, right? Any questions here, or this is clear? You know, the outside mid is in an advanced position, right, towards our goal, closer to the fullback. So our 11 doesn't have to drop to cover him. Okay, and they're just showing you that because of that, if the ball is played to the 11, our fullback can go up. All right, and he doesn't have to worry. The thing is, even though there's a big gap here, if our fullback is a good fullback and prevents him from turning, can he play into this channel? Anybody? Dead air.
No.
No, thank you. Thank you, Jamar. He cannot play, right? If you stop him from turning, he can't even play into the channel of the 10, right? But our 8's going to make a run anyway, right? Our 8 should be covering that. Okay. So now they're showing you the 11 was close to our fullback right here, right? So our fullback holds either way, right? And now they're showing you if their fullback tried to make a long pass to the 10, making that run from the inside to the outside, right? Because that's where the space could potentially be. It's not a problem because our fullback held back, right? And the fullback can control that, and it can also be helped by our center back. Whereas if our fullback took the bait and went up here, now our center back would have to come out, and we lose our double marking on the 9. Make sense? That's why everybody has to do their job. Everybody does their job, the other team won't score. Okay, so you're seeing here that if our fullback can't initially take care of the run and the center back does go to control it, this is called an exchange. So what's happening here? Our center back decided, well, I'm closer on this particular ball. So the center back came out to cover. And what does our fullback do? Becomes what? Becomes what position? Dead air. Anybody paying attention? Luke, Denise, Jamar, what does our fullback become?
Our fullback becomes a center back.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Fullback, and we call that exchange. They exchange positions. Okay. Because he just happened to be closer. It's just the heat of the battle, whatever. You don't know how balls, just little movements of the players. If he's closer, go for it, and then just exchange. Okay. So he's like, this would be yelling, I got ball, right? So then he would peel off and help. You gotta yell, I got ball, or you got ball, right? And the other guy should peel off in a support role. A bad fullback will see that and just stay there. No. Don't worry about this guy anymore. Come in and cover his position, exchange. Okay, very important. Now they're showing you where the fullback came up, okay, and the fullback leaves too much space. All right, too much space, and he gets beat over the top. Like in American football, like a safety taking the taking the bait on a double move, right, and then getting Barron over the top. So this is a problem. This is why he's got to hold his position, and it would have been neutralized. Okay, now we'll have to rely on our center back, and the fullback's just completely taken out of the play. That's why they have a big red X there, right? So you don't want to. The fullback needs to watch and control his area. Okay. If you think you have to go too high up, just call your outside mid back. That's why we practice that all the time, because it's everything. It's the whole game. We can prevent these things. We can completely control the sidelines, the outside players. We can completely control it by being more intelligent than our opponents. Okay. So again, they're just showing you against a different formation. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're still getting beat over the top, right? You're getting beat by the 10 making the run. All right. He got too out the pitch and left too much space behind him. All right. So does everybody see that? That's a problem. Okay. You gotta call him back for help if this guy drops in too high. And also don't just stay back here. This way, you don't actually, because I wouldn't even call for help on this. I would just stay back, right? So let me rephrase this, because he's not too high up here, right? So really the move is to stay here. And then if the ball is played during the transmission phase, you step. What's the problem here? He doesn't need to call the mid back. He just needs to not be so close to him. Like here, yeah, it's great if he does try to make this pass, you could intercept it, but only a really bad fullback is going to do that. A good fullback is going to do what? Play it over the top, which I wish our guys would do, for Christ's sake, right? I wish our guys would do that. Play a ball over the top once in a while here. Okay, so the reality is, he hasn't dropped in enough to warrant calling in our midfielder. Just stay back, wait for the ball to transmit. During the transmission phase is when you run up. Does that make sense? Okay, now they're showing here he got a late start, doesn't prevent him from turning. Okay, and you see the ball gets there, and then he plays down to the 10. Okay, so in that scenario, he would need to just say, okay, shit, I can't prevent the turn, so drop. Okay, drop. They're showing you now, yeah, like, so for this scenario here, don't be so aggressive if you can't. We talked about this. Don't be so aggressive. Don't compound a mistake with another mistake. If you realize he's going to turn, drop back and contain until we can shift over and help you. We could shift everybody over. Instead, this guy took a real aggressive stance, and then he just, like, let's say one touches it right past him for the 10. So now here they're showing you, this is him dropping in, right? Drops in to get free of marking. And we know how to handle it. They're going to show us on the slide next, I'm quite sure, right? We would need help here, right? So this is the example of him dropping in, which we know is going to happen. They're going to start to drop in. And you can see that here's our maneuver, right? The fullback calls out, and really the 11 needs to be looking. Okay, he needs to be aware of his surroundings, our outside mid. But you can see that the marking is taken over by the outside mid, so that our fullback can contain the run of the 10. Right? Okay, makes sense. And we practice this. This is why we practice that. Make sense? No questions? Okay. And now they're going to get a little more detail with showing the 12 yards. Okay, this should look very familiar, right? There's the fullback with the ball. This is almost, it looks exactly like our rondo, right? Right here, right? Ball gets played, we step, right? This is just, all they're explaining here is the 12 yards, which we're going to practice a lot, okay? So we're dealing with the outside players here, right? We got to get 12 yards. And generally, I always line up our cones 6 or 12 yards apart. So when you're at practice, you're going to get familiar to what 12 yards looks like. I always line our cones up in increments of 6 or 12. Always, 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 always. Okay? Always, always, always. So you'll always know, you can tell the difference between 6 and 12 yards. So whenever you see a cone and you're at our practice, if it's a short distance, it's 6 yards, and if it's a little longer, it's 12. Okay? That'll help you get used to that. Okay, and we've all done this in practice. This is beautiful, right? The ball is transmitted. Okay, here's the double marking. Here is the double marking. Beautiful, right? This is Atletico Madrid doing it. And look at what the 8's doing. Cutting off the pass to the 10. Okay, everybody converging into the ball. This is our trap. Okay, we let them play around like this, and then when the ball's sent, we step. Okay, here he's turned. All right, we contain until the double mark comes. Just contain long enough until the double mark comes. I don't care if he's the best player in EPSL. Just take a step back a little bit until the double mark comes. Maybe he's good enough to beat you if you lunge, but he's not good enough to beat 2 guys coming from the back and the front, right? Yeah? Be patient. Right, so that makes sense, right? We've done that in practice. I don't need to, you see all the other stuff, the sliding over, okay? The 9's coming in to cut off to help out. We talk about this. What do we want to happen? This is the 9 and 10, right? What do we want them doing? Come back. Look how deep, look how far they're coming back, right? They're giving up they're not standing here. Is Mo still here? Look, Mo, they're not standing here, right? Coming back up. We're going to win the ball, and then we'll attack. Defense first. You'll see later in a couple more tacticals, we're gonna press and win the ball up higher. This is not what we're doing right now. This is the middle of the pitch, and we're going to stop them from getting the ball in the middle. Okay. Yeah, I think that's actually the last slide I have, so I'm going to stop there. This is a great place to stop. We're almost done. There's only this is tactical situation 10. I think it only goes up to 15. So we're what is that? We're 2/3 of the way through the Atletico defensive book. All right. So I'm going to open it up to any questions, and then I'll stop the recording. Is there any good questions?
I kind of had one, but it might have been specific to the last game we played because we had a lot of players who we weren't fully running. You know what I mean? Everyone was not fully up to speed.
All right. So hold that thought. Does anybody have any specific questions about this, or I can stop the recording? We good? Okay, that was tactical number 5. I'll see you on the next one on the flippity flip. Where's this at? Stop recording.